Right, welcome to week 10. This week we're going to talk about detailing and components. And before we get into details, we're going to hit a couple more things on elevations and section views. I want you to understand that a detail view, okay, and typically these are sections. They can be a partial elevation. That's a possibility, okay? And of course, interior elevations, we'll get into that next week. But a detail is where we blow up the scale larger and we have a view of the model, and then we add two-dimensional components that are called detail components to add the small details to our drawings that are not included in the model. Okay, so for example, rebar. You reinforcing steel for concrete. You can model rebar in Revit. It's somewhat complicated, and unless you're a structural engineer, there's no need for you to model rebar, unless you just absolutely want to. Okay. From an architectural standpoint, it's easier, quicker to use the 2D components on a lot of things, especially from an architectural standpoint. Things like rebar, structural steel, even flashing, a lot of trim, unless I'll say trim like moldings, unless you're going for renderings, photo renderings or video walkthroughs. It's easier just to model or to do the trim in 2D components instead of placing base molding in every room or crown molding or things like that. So the outcome of what your project is going to be determines what you model and what you detail. Okay, so I'm starting with the same plan we used last week, but I've made some changes to it. So go ahead and download this one for this week so you can kind of follow along with it. I'll have one or two videos here about how to set up detailing and loading components and things. And then you have a project. I've listed it as an in-class because I want you to come in and look at the drawings that I have hanging up in the classroom. I want you to look at the drawings to see what's there, what's included, and I want you to see what's not included. Okay, so you don't have to do all the work in the class, but I do want you to come in and look at these drawings and ask questions of the tutors, ask questions of me, even communicate with the other classmates if you so choose. Because there's a lot to be said for what's not included in a drawing. Okay. All right, so starting out this week, let's look at elevations, okay? And all right, so I selected that elevation. This shows me here where the start is on it, and so I'm going to drag it in a little closer to the building there. And I'm going to turn on far clip. And I'm going to drag it out beyond that edge of the wall. Now, there are times with elevations and with sections in which you want to do an offset. In AutoCAD, what we would call an offset section, okay? And this is, kind of a case like that to where maybe I don't know, maybe we've got some exterior, I don't know, sidewalk plantings, I don't know, picnic tables, whatever, parking lot, whatever. Okay, and you don't want that to show up in your elevation view. So the thing to do is to split this and change it. So we'll go split segment. And then we want to kind of click on our line, and we'll click it right here. And then drag that one to the inside closer to the building. Now this may be, it's probably not going to look right. But if you select it, you can see you've got handles to adjust the viewing planes, and then your FAR clip is one FAR clip for the entire building. So let's take a look and see how this looks here now. Okay, now the color is because I've got different material types. I've got brick on this wall and ephes on this wall. And you know, actually it looks pretty good there, okay? I don't know what's going on with my, oh, I have another grid line back there, okay? And so that way it gets it in closer, okay? So that's with an elevation. You can do the same thing with a section view. And let's look at sections. I know we've talked about section views a bit in the past. So I can hit the pull down here. I can go to views and go section. We've got three different options. We've got a detail, a building section, and a wall section. And which one you use determines what you want, determines which one you want. Okay. That made a lot of sense, didn't it? Okay, so a building section is going to be used for when you're going through the building. Okay, so we'll say we want a section through that part of the building there. All right. Notice the way the handles and the heads and the things look. If I want a wall section, notice how they look. Okay, the heads are different. And if we want a, like I said, if we want a wall section of just one particular wall, and we did this previously in some of the other videos, where we want to use the wall section tool. If we want a full building section, we'll use the full building section because it organizes them in your browser differently. Okay. Now the third one, and we haven't looked at that one yet, the detailed view of a section. And see the difference in the heads and the tails. Okay, so they look differently there. Now let's go and look at what we've created. Of course, the building section is just that. It's the full building. Okay. A wall section is just that. It's just one wall where we put it. The detail view is a section through that level that we were on. Okay, and so this gives you just the details there on level 1. Okay, so that's the difference in those three. Now, granted, within our wall section, we can do, or excuse me, within our building section, we can do a call out of this particular wall and pull it out. And then we have a call out section. And we're going to deal with, I'm trying to think. Are we doing it? No, we're doing it this week in the in class. So I could do this. Okay, and so now that creates me a call out detail of that wall based on this building section. And you notice it placed it over here in the detail views. Okay, because the detail views, while it's dependent upon your view that you take it from. So let me go back to this wall section, and I've got it clipped. It's set at 70 feet. Let me look at that. I don't want 70 feet, so I'm going to pull it back down. Something small there. 3 feet. Okay. And if I look here, Okay, so now you see I can't see anything beyond it. No walls. Sometimes you want to show that, sometimes you don't. In this case, I'm going to set it at don't. And then I go to my detail view. Well, the clip settings is set at same as parent. You can change that. Okay, make it independent, so you can adjust it independently if you wish. Okay, and then even from here, we can create detail callouts. Okay, of this particular view. Now, you're saying, well, we got multiple ways of doing the same thing. Yes. All right. So if we think about this in a level of progression, if you will, we look at our floor plan and we see, okay, here's a building section through here. I can go there and see what the entire building looks like. Well, I want to know about this particular wall in more detail, so I can go to this particular detail here. And it was detail 1, okay. And that shows me that wall. And of course, this one I would set a much larger scale, okay. I don't know, we would say 3/4 of an inch, half inch, something, okay. And then I can see all of that wall in the notes and the materials, and I say, okay, I want to know about this particular area where this floor joins the wall, and I can go to that detail. And these are often a much larger scale, like say 1.5 inches, 3 inches, something like that. Okay, so it depends on your project. If you look back at your print reading drawing packets, you'll see a variety of ways of doing things. But look at the commercial buildings, okay, the office building with the parking garage, or the Delhi Garden Center. Look at those and see how they go through a progression of sections. It could be that we don't, a full building section is good, and then it shows you an overall view of the building. Sometimes you need just individual wall sections in different areas, okay? And there's no reason to go to a full building section in order to create a wall section. Depends on what you need and what you want. All right, so now then, another little deal here on section views. I don't know if I think I covered this previously. I don't know, but when you select it, you've got options here. You can reverse the direction, okay? This cycles through the head of turning it on, making it a foot, or turning it off. Okay. This one is the break, so that the line doesn't go all the way through the building. And sometimes all you want is the ends, where it crosses outside of the building, because it may get quite confusing inside. All right, so another thing, and sometimes you want to do an offset section through your building, and so we're going to put a section through our building right here. Oh, I had detail view there. Let's go back to building section. Okay, so let's take a look at this view here. All right, so we've got this little office that it goes through that's rotated, and that's very confusing. If I wanted a building section through my building, but that just gets really confusing. So what we can do here is we can do an offset by going split segment. And I'll come here and then drag this portion over so that it's created an offset. And now when I look at it, I've just got my building components And I don't have that really weird office poking out at me and looking at me, okay? And so that's another way of doing that, okay? So there's another thing there. All right, we're at 15 minutes. I'm going to pause this video and then come back and we'll get into placing detail components.